Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics to keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. Definitely good to be back here at the Social Dig. So glad that we are doing this show tonight, right here, live in effect. You guys have been with me for a long run. We ran some after hours joints for a little while and kept you guys intact. Now we're back to the live shows. The live shows will continue from here on out. So I definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in tonight. I do see a couple chats, names in the chat there, Eternal, Area 51, and Miss Catherine Jones. Definitely welcoming lurkers as well. If you're not in the chat, I definitely appreciate you coming on in. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to be talking about UFOs. Are they adversarial? Are they government tech? Or are they alien tech? Which is most likely the case. We're going to get into that and a lot more today right here on the Social Dig. So glad to be here with you. J Truth Seeker, I see you. Thanks for coming on in. It's a special day as well. Some things have been going on here at the Social Dig. You know, we've achieved some things, and it's all because of people like you that tune into the show. And I just gotta say that I appreciate everything that you guys do. I really do. I mean, it's the only way I can put it. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to jump into some stuff here. Rounddorf, thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing up here at the Social Dig. Yes, because it is going down tonight. This evening, right? I'm not usually used to doing shows this early, but I know you guys aren't used to coming to shows this early as well. But this is the thing from here on out. We will be doing this 5 o'clock Wednesdays, Social Dig. Fridays, we will be doing My Experience with the Phenomena at 5 p.m. We will still run archive episodes of After Hours, but maybe only on Mondays. And then, as everybody wanted, the late night calling show is coming back. We're going to do that on Saturdays, right after the After Hours show. So when we finish up there, follow me right on over here, and we'll go ahead and get this thing going. You know why we do this on this channel? We do this for the positive progression of humanity. I definitely want to make sure I get the slide up here, because this says it all, and I kind of put this together for that reason. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. You can call us 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIG. We have a segment called Ask the Chat. We're going to get back into that and oh so much more. It is going down right here at the Social Dig. Do appreciate you guys showing on up. Here we go. So a lot of things been going on since the last time we've been here. Maggie and 10, I see you out there. Thanks for coming in. Pancho Zort, thanks for coming on in. Yeah, we have some good things that we're gonna hop into. Like I said, a lot of news has been going on since I've last done a show here. Last show we did was the Juneteenth show, right? That was back in June. So here we go. We're back on it. Let's go ahead and jump right on into this week in disclosure news. Everybody, this week in disclosure news, look at the titles here. Is disclosure heating up? It's simmering right now. I think we're going in the right direction though, with Lou Elizondo's book being released, and that's kind of the first thing that we'll end up jumping into with the news. Then we have new round of UFO hearings that are supposed to be coming up here soon. I was kind of surprised by that when I got the news as well. There are some things that have been said as well about MH370 flight, MH370 flight that disappeared. A lot of theories going on there, and actually saw something today that kind of intrigued me just based off of what this gentleman was saying. So we'll talk about that, and then we will actually talk about the future of the social dig and kind of where we're going and what we're doing and what we hope to achieve here. So definitely want to stick around, make sure that you don't go anywhere. It's going to be a fantastic show today. So let's go ahead and jump into our first story. So the book Imminent, right? You know, we've talked about this over on After Hours. Lou Elizondo released a book, Imminent, long-awaited book. You know, we've been waiting probably 3 years for this. Day it came out, I actually finished it in the first day. Took in a lot of information and was really pleased by what I saw or what I heard, rather. This is audio book. But I'll tell you what, you know, a lot of people expected Lou Elizondo to be releasing a book full of secrets, full of untold stories or pictures of evidence of bodies, and that wasn't what you were going to get. If you paid attention to Lou Elizondo, he's dropped breadcrumbs the entire way since we first heard him on the very first podcast that he showed up on, right? So he did give us a lot of that, a lot of the same information, but he did as well drop additional nuggets, right? Like on the press run that he's on right now, which I got to say is a fantastic press run. I mean, he's definitely hitting a lot more of the major markets than he hit in his first run. So, I mean, that really says something. That says that the climate has changed, and a lot of these national media outlets are now willing to give someone like that a platform to come on and talk about things. I even seen him on the Daily Show, right? Which is pretty funny. They tried to handle it seriously, but obviously it's a comedy show, so they threw some humor in there as well. Lou had fun with it. But I'm just so glad to see that the fire has not died down yet. We're almost a month into the book being released. He started going on this press run about a week into the book being released. So 3 weeks strong, he's been on this press run. He started with the national outlets, and it just seems like he's able to do more. Some of the things that he said in this book, like for one thing, and he said this actually on his press run, that he's actually confirmed Roswell, right? For whatever reason, he said Dobson approved him to come out and talk about Roswell, and so he was able to confirm that based on information that he had, that there were 2 crashes in Roswell, which I think we knew already, obviously. But I think what's important about that, right, is not just that we knew it, but it's more so like it was what I call the original cover-up. It's the cover-up before the cover-up, because they had 2 cover-ups when it pertains to Roswell, maybe 3, depending on how deep you want to go. So when Roswell first happened, the initial report was that there was a crash disk recovered. Then the next day, they went ahead and revised that account and said that it was a weather balloon that had crashed. And then in, I believe, 1994, they tried to say it was some sort of project where they dropped dummies. The cover-up of the cover-up. However, with Lou Elizondo being able to confirm Roswell happened and that there were 2 crashes, that's something to dive into. An interesting thing about that is on the show, we interviewed on After Hours Dave Altman, who is one of the creators behind the Alien Encounters Fact or Fiction. And if you had a chance to watch that series, which I recommend that you do, there was a guest that came on that had actually gone to the Roswell crash site with the metal detector and came back with a piece of metal that he felt like was from the Roswell crash. So they went ahead and they examined it, and turned out that the metal came back as 99.9% aluminum, which they said you don't find aluminum in its natural state anywhere. You just don't find it. And to go a step further, they said per arrow, this 99.9% aluminum has been recovered at most crash sites, if not all crash sites that we know about. So that kind of further confirms, what it is that we already knew, which was something crashed here. There were bodies retrieved in that account, and this thing is real, right? And that's at the beginning. So for all the skeptics, we always pointed back to Roswell as being like one of the first confirmation points in this whole thing. And Lou Elizondo was able to go a step further and actually confirm from the government side that, yeah, this did happen like we knew. So I think that's awesome. And then the evidence that was brought to the table with the material from the crash site is not only that, they had another person who had visited the crash site in Arizona. There was a different crash site, totally different incident. And they retrieved a huge piece of metal. They went ahead and examined that and found that it was also 99.9% aluminum. And so they tied those two together, and it just further confirmed that for whatever reason, and you would think aluminum at 100%, 99.9% is pretty malleable, right? I think you could bend that with your hands, or it's not too hard to do that. So I would want to know what part of the spaceship that was, but it's apparent that it's something from the spaceship. So with that being said, Lou Elizondo on a great press run. Get the book imminent. It is definitely a good read. I'm actually about to go through it a second time. And yeah, I definitely think you should do that. So moving on, what do we have here? We have the new round of UFO hearings. So I'm going to go ahead and read something here. This is actually courtesy of The Hill. And some of this information is actually new to me as well. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. And it goes, Senate Armed Services Committee to hold UFO hearing. This article is by Ellen Mitchell. So courtesy of Ellen Mitchell over at The Hill. The Senate Armed Services Committee is looking to hold a UFO hearing after the November elections. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's office confirmed to The Hill. The hearing announcement follows an increase in sightings of what's officially known as unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP, including one purportedly near Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. It would also come more than a year after an explosive House hearing in July 2023, when 3 former Pentagon officials testified about their experience with or sightings of UAP, warning that a lack of information on the phenomenon could pose national security risks. Now, Gillibrand, who in 2022 helped start the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, created to assess reports of UAP, wants a progress update on the office's work. It's a priority for me. I think it's very important that we continue to make things publicly available. Gillibrand earlier this month told Matt Laszlo's DC Ask a Poll podcast she wants a progress report on how many unidentified aerial phenomena we've assessed and analyzed, and for the office to, quote, give examples of what we have identified and give examples of what we haven't identified. Gillibrand, who chairs the subcommittee under the Senate Armed Services Committee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities, added that she wants ARROW to, quote, to continue to build credibility. Okay. Her office confirmed Tuesday to The Hill that there will be a hearing likely in November in last summer's headline-making House hearing on UAP, during which former Air Force intelligence officer David Grush alleged that the government was hiding technology of foreign or even extraterrestrial origin. Rep. Tim Burchett requested the Inspector General of the intelligence community to investigate the claims further. But lawmakers have been frustrated with any progress since then, with Burchett suggesting in April that he believes the U.S. government was involved in a cover-up of information on UAP. A Pentagon report on UAP released in March concluded that there is no evidence the U.S. has reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology, pushing back on claims that it's hiding off-world spacecraft. So we already know what was going on with that. So I guess this would be the first hearing, or the first, if you want to call it a hearing. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be an actual hearing, but it's the first time that they've convened since your favorite ARROW representative Sean Kirkpatrick stepped down, right? So we have a new guy in there. This little bug is going to bother me. You have a new guy in there, and just not sure what he's going to do. However, I heard from Lou Elizondo that I guess he knows of the person and has at least optimism that he'll do right within the office. So maybe this will be a productive meeting if ARROW can turn its right the ship. But I kind of feel like ARROW is simply there to simply do exactly what they did with the Condon Report, Project Blue Book, same exact playbook. And so I don't really see how the outcome is going to be any different. Now, I'll be optimistic and hoping that the government can turn that page, the one that we're hoping that they can turn, because obviously they are made up of human beings. I don't like to always have to come at the government about them, you know, having secrets and hiding and not being truthful. But if history is any example of what's to come in the future, then you can't blame me for having that sort of outlook. But as more and more whistleblowers step forward, it just shows you that there are people within the government that are human beings that are able to tap into that compassion and hopefully get the needle moved on the conversation from that end. Because either way, we're going to get disclosure because we curate our own data as humanity and experiencers. And we've talked about that a million times, that we really have probably as much as they do. The only thing we don't have is the ships or the bodies, right? But I think we have pretty much everything else. So with that being said, that's that story. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but we're going to keep it moving because there was something that I saw recently. This guy named Ashton Forbes. I don't know if you guys saw this interview or not. Let me actually move on to that. But if you know, on the Spaced Out Radio, Dave has recently talked about MH370 and the guy Robert J. O'Neill, the one who supposedly had off bin Laden, and a tweet that he made about essentially paraphrasing that the U.S. did this to kind of, get China's attention, essentially. And he didn't go further into detail, and it had bothered me because I don't like conspiracy theories on the level that I think that was being promoted. I went and looked at his Twitter account, and there were a lot of other random tweets there. But then I saw something recently that kind of made me understand why he may have made that tweet. I think he actually watched the same show that I watched, where there was a guy on there named Ashton Forbes, and he positioned it like this wasn't a shoot down. This wasn't a plane crash. So he is under the impression that, and I'll show you the images here, that these images or the video that pertain to these images, that it was authentic. Now, you have a lot of people out there that said, no, the video's been debunked. And I know a lot of people have gone around and said this video is debunked. Now, I'll just give you his angle. This is what he was saying. And I have some quotes from him as well. So looking at this is the guy here. And it's important, here's the guy on the left and the guy on the right. It's important that you know who this guy is. This guy is supposedly named Edward C. Lynn. He's in the service. I don't know what branch exactly or what his status is. However, he thinks, the guy on the left thinks the guy on the right is the one that recorded the video that has been shown. And he goes a step further. So I have a few quotes from him here where he says that essentially he was on Redacted, and I'll put the link in the description of the video when we're done here. So courtesy Redacted. He said he thinks the plane didn't crash. He thinks the video's the real deal. He thinks that we may have figured out alien tech. He said, holy crap, this is a U.S. military person who is recording this. This is a screen recording, and stating that the person knew that they were going to get caught. So apparently they were able to do some sleuthing about the video. And by the way, I guess the mouse moved on the screen, he stated they were able to tell that the mouse was moving at like 23 frames per second, which indicated it was like a Citrix video, and that you weren't actually seeing the full screen, that there was a recording device, likely a phone, that was recording the screen of the Citrix meeting. And that's why you didn't see any of the other data. So he stated that there was drone cameras and information that were outside the view that was shown in the video. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. That could be or could not be true. Definitely do your research on that. But he did say this. So essentially, he went on with this theory that he believed this video was real and that what you saw in the video actually happened. And then he goes on to say this. He says, quote, I think we're looking at Lockheed Martin technology. I think we figured out anti-gravity. I don't know if we reverse engineered it or if we dug it up or something and figured it out, or if we figured this out going all the way back to the Manhattan Project and the Philadelphia experiment. But I think we've got this technology. I think that's our technology. And I think that Edward C. Lynn, the guy on the right there, he might not have even known. I think he might have thought it was UFOs and thought, oh, I'm not hurting anybody by leaking this information to his Taiwanese friends who are allies with us against China. And then they push it onto the internet. So he says he thinks the guy thinks it's UFOs and kind of puts it out there because he didn't figure it was military secret, especially with the other information being redacted, right? So I don't know how you feel about that. I don't, would we have that tech? Could we have re-engineered enough anti-gravity to a point to where we can make this plane essentially take control of it, land it somewhere else, which is what he's saying has happened? I don't know that that's the case. I'm more under the idea, if I'm going to believe anything, if you were to say that video is real, if we're able to confirm that somehow, which I guess he says he has, and but I can't vouch for that, but I would say that if the video is real, then I think that's extraterrestrial intervention. That's the only thing I could think of. However, he does go into detail because he's done extensive research on this case, and he talks about how some of the plane parts that did wash up, there's kind of questions about that. He had some stuff he said washed up in Africa, like 2,000 miles away, and that the logistics of having that wash up way over there within that time frame just didn't make sense. And then a couple of other things. So his theory is that they landed the plane somehow, the government is what he's saying, and that they disassembled the plane and then put the parts in the water to kind of throw off the trail. So however you feel about that, I'm going to put the link in the description of this video so you can go ahead and watch it for yourself and tell me what you think about this. Because I was on the, truthfully, I don't know where I was on this, truthfully, because once they said the video was debunked, I'm not under any impression that we brought this plane down with force, kind of blew it up, is what some people were saying. I would never buy that, right? Because I don't buy into those sort of theories. And then the guy who made that tweet, the guy who intervened with bin Laden, you go read his other tweets, then you kind of probably understand why I'm not going with what he's saying. But with that being said, let's go ahead and keep the news moving here. So the next thing that I had, did I have anything else before this? No. Okay. So I wanted to go ahead and congratulate the channel on 500 subs. We got our 500 plus subs. So let me just take a second. Just round of applause for everybody, everyone here. Great time to be alive. Because we couldn't have done this number without you guys, right? You have some larger creators out there to look at this and say, oh, they have thousands of subs, 500 subs. When you talk about the messages that we talk about here and the perspective that we have here, right? That's a great number of people to have that have the same sort of mindset, right? A like-minded mindset, who want to see the progression in humanity, which is what this channel is all about. And I just think it's awesome that we have this many people within our group that have decided, to take that path and understand that that's the path that we need to take, that we have to take when it comes down to, get moving the needle and progressing humanity, right? So I was really happy to see this. It's if I could go back to the first video, I'm not going to play it right now, but If you go back and look at the welcome video on this channel, which is the first video ever done, it's like a 3-minute video that I did before I ever did an episode on this channel. And it was just giving the mission statement and the outline of the mission for this channel. And it was, if you listen to that video, you'll see that it aligns with everything that we follow and believe in today. Essentially moving the needle. And this is obviously, the message doesn't change when it's a real message, right? So that kind of got me when I watched that. I was like, wow, it's been since then, and then here we are, right? So with that being said, some things are going to not really change here, but some things are going to now open up, opportunities open up, and there's plans that I want to put together, right? Because at this point, now it's time to really get this thing moving, right? I've taken a break on this channel because I've been over at the after hours and getting the after hour show right and getting it where, and now it's there, right? Now it's very comfortable at this point. So now we have time to come back here and do what we need to do here at Social Dig, because the mission is here. Positive progression in humanity, period, and always. So with that being said, let's see. Oh, appreciate it. Let me actually see in the chat here. Thank you, Dewey Cheatham Hal, for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Thirsty, thanks for coming on in. Let's see who else has come in. We have Thirsty. We got Aaron Baca. Thanks for coming in. Aaron, race fan with the gold. Thanks for coming on in. Bim Jim, appreciate you. Race fan says, yeah, buddy, 500 subs. It should be 5,000. And I understand. Here's the thing. I don't just want anybody, right? Like, you guys are special because you understand what the mission is. Like, not everybody, we do shows on enlightenment and enlightening humanity and things of that nature. Some people don't respond to those shows. Some people don't respond to the those real conversations that have to be had. Some people just like to hear spooky stories. Unfortunately, some people just want to hear a spooky story, and that's good enough for them. They go on with their day. When it comes time to having the conversations that we need to have to figure out what we're going to do next or where we're going to go, that's a little different. And there's a subset of people that really understand that and understand that there's still more that we have to do than just understanding that UFOs are real or nuts and bolts in the sky. There's a plan that has to be put in place on what we're going to do next. And with that being said, after hours this Saturday, we have Reed Summers coming on. I've been waiting for this show because we're going to be talking alien intent. Like, okay, they're here. Okay, but what do they want? Why are they here? What's the deal? So we're going to be getting into that, jumping down that rabbit hole on Saturday. So please make sure you're there for that. And this show will kind of lead into that because, we're going to be talking about what are UFOs. A lot of people think they're government tech. Some think they're adversarial. Some think they're just alien craft, right? So we're going to be jumping into that in just a second. Thanks, Maggie M10. Appreciate you. Said congrats, Mr. Rob. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that being said, I have activated some things. This little bug is going to destroy me. But I've activated some things on the channel. As you can see, once you get hit 500 subs, now YouTube monetizes your channel. Kinda. So you do have the ability at this point to open up the super chats, which I've done, and then also open up memberships. Now I'm gonna make some statements here, and I just want everybody to pay attention to this because there is no requirement for anyone to do anything. Never on this channel. This channel is always open and free for content. It's always open and free for the messages that we speak here. You do not ever feel obligated to do anything but show up for the show and get some enlightenment and help move the needle. That's it. But the reason why we have activated these things on the show is because obviously we've reached a status where we can do so. But The real why is to continue to increase the quality of programming, because I strive to bring the best shows to you, the best quality, as best as I can, right? To increase quality of programming, editing, graphic work, equipment, accessing materials needed to research and apply. Because I want to make sure this channel is one of the best channels on YouTube, period, when it comes to the time that we spend together. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I want to make sure that everything that comes out here is quality content. So what will be offered with these memberships? Discounts on merch, and then social media interaction. I forgot who I talked to in the audience. They were talking about Discord. And so there's a way you can use Discord to do things like watch movies as a group. So I was like, okay, we probably do something like a movie night or something like that. How does it work? There's a community tab. Apparently, I'm new to this, so I have no clue really, but there's supposed to be content that ends up being available in the community tab. We'll figure this out as we go. But let's see. Am I required to be a member or to super chat? No. Content and shows are still completely free. However, memberships and super chats do help to make the quality of content better. So if you ever did find yourself donating or doing anything, it would be to improve this show or just to make the show better. How do you sign up to help support? If you choose to do so, links to sign up for memberships will be listed in channel and video descriptions. And then super chats, obviously, you know how those work. As the channel grows, now this is being a humanity-focused channel. We will begin, and this will happen down the line once the channel grows some more. It's still early now, but once we get further down the line, we'll begin choosing charities. And I had this idea from the first day when I had my co-host on here, Mateo. This is something that he and I talked about because we want to make sure it's humanity focused in what it is that we do here. And, one of the ways of making sure that a humanity-led cause gets benefited is to donate to some sort of charity. So what we're thinking of doing there is just like doing like a poll for charities that you all might give to, and then just making donations to that charity every month. It's something that directly affects the beneficiary, right? So when you donate, whatever's donated, that goes right to whoever needs the help, right? So that's something that this will be doing on this channel, that this channel will be pushing, and donations to charity. And what else do we have? We have... Okay, yeah. So just saying this here, yeah. So basically, I just want to know. Obviously, as you come here, it's just me here at the Social Dig. I'm a one-man show. I'd sit here, I do all the research, I produce the show, I create the graphics on the screen, I create the thumbnails, I write out the show outlines, I host the show, I edit the shows, I book the guests. And if you know me, I do all this, period. Anyways, regardless, to help progress humanity. And I truly appreciate all you guys just for showing up. I tell you all the time, and I consider that alone, just you being here, as support. So understand that none of this is me trying to get you to do anything or requiring anything, or never will be that way here at the Social Dig. Anything above that, if you have the ability, obviously is appreciated, and you'll see the value returned by me raising the bar on quality and well-produced content. Now, with that being said, I also would like to start building a team, which obviously would, at this early in the stage, that team would be a volunteer team. So if you're proficient in editing, thumbnails, script work, research, graphics, show producing, and more, then I would love to hear from you. Let's just move the needle together, guys. And that's really what I just wanted to cover. And just kind of thank you again. And let me give the round of applause, because no channel, there's only few channels that reach milestones. And I found out it's like within the 10% of all. So you guys are that awesome. And that's why I'm going to give another round of applause, because it's not just me, it's you. It is you. And I do appreciate you all. So, yes, you guys are awesome. So, with that being said, I just wanted to cover that, and maybe we'll celebrate again at 1,000, and hopefully we get past that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We don't know. But with that being said, we're going to move in now to the actual meat and potatoes of the show, which is the UFOs, adversarial government alien tech. So I'll show you how I laid this out. So this is an argument that a lot of people are having, and I just part of it I can't understand. I can't understand the skeptical side of this. I mean, yeah, you should be skeptical because they're definitely, I feel like, not all of these things we're seeing are UFOs from somewhere else. I do believe that some of this stuff is, from entities here on Earth, government potentially, or adversarial. But there are certain things that that just aren't, right? So let's just kind of go into why that is the case. So let me go ahead and get this started, right? So UFOs, government, adversarial, or alien tech. This is the big question. This is the big question. So here's where we'll start. So if the government, and we'll start off with the United States. So with government black projects, some say UFOs are U.S. Government black projects. Okay, so what I did was, that's the evidence right there, right? A craft. They say it has seams. They say anything with seams or rivets is man-made. Is that necessarily true? Just because something has seams and rivets, does that mean it's true? That's what people like to say. But one thing I will say is that I do think that the subset of craft that we do see that have been seen are triangular in shape. And Richard Dolan actually recently, I was checking out his U.S.O. show, and he had mentioned that triangle shaped crafts, for whatever reason, seem to only be noticed within the waters of and in the skies of the United States and Canada. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I'll show you the reason why it makes sense, right? Because when we jump down the rabbit hole, and let's just talk about black projects, right? I've said this before. I don't think that black projects are going to be on display for the world to see. I just don't think that they would be. I don't feel like government black projects are going to be right there for you to take a picture of at any given time. Thank you for the wonderful support, Miss Catherine. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that awesome super chat. So, yeah, I don't think that they would ever put this up for the world to see, because why would you do that? When you look historically as well, historically, the black projects that we know of that have come out haven't been shown in that fashion. And we're going to kind of go down a list and see why that makes sense, right? So looking at this, looking at some of the previous, though, the first time someone saw something in the sky, thought it was a UFO, but then it turned out to be a U.S. black project, we have to go all the way back, right? To like I want to say the 50s or 60s. Jim Goodall would know this a lot better than I would, where you had the SR-71 being test flown through the skies, right? And I want you to just take a look at this, because there's a theme here. So triangular in shape, technically, if you had never seen the triangle in the sky, if you were to see this versus anything else that we had out at the time, obviously, if it hadn't been announced, you're going to say, okay, this is a UFO or that was a UFO. But the thing is that Jim Goodall was and I'm sure he still gets into it somewhat, but was a Black Project spotter. Essentially, he was with a group of people that would purposely go out and look for black projects. So they knew where to look. They knew what time of the day. They knew, how to catch these things, and they were able to catch a few of these things on film. But okay, first time you see something in the sky, it's an SR-71. You don't know what that is, and you're like, "Whoa, UFO! Gotta be a UFO! Gotta be a UFO!" Okay, comes out. officially announced. Turns out, Black Project. It's like, oh, okay, got it. Right. So that'd be the first one I could think of that you would have probably considered a UFO. They had the U-2 spy plane, all that before, but it still looked like a plane, right? Just specifically focusing on things that are so different that you would think, okay, UFO initially. So the next one that we have after that would be the F-117 Nighthawk, right? Famously, everybody knows the people who saw this in the sky prior to it being announced. I believe it was being flown since the early 80s, and it didn't get announced until pretty much the Gulf War, right? So it's like 89, 90, somewhere in there, 91. So it had gone like 7 years, 8 years of test flights where people were seeing these things. Jim Goodall and his group caught this on camera and before it was announced as well. But the other part of this, and I guess I'll say this once towards the end of this part, but let me just keep going here. So yeah, you see this in the sky. You don't know what it is yet. Hasn't been announced. Okay, UFO. UFO. Gotta be a UFO. Also triangular in nature as well. So you kind of see the SR-71. You see this, not technically the same shape, but both triangular in shape there. And we keep moving down the list here. Another next Black Project. This one didn't come out, but Boeing confirmed that it was real, I guess, in about 2002. This was done in the 90s, called the Bird of Prey. But once again, something that was test flown in the 90s. And if you were looking up, this has not been announced. You're probably going to think UFO, maybe. Or you might say Black Project if you're kind of, into that or understand that they are developing these things behind the scenes. But once again, something very strange that isn't normal, isn't like a normal plane that you would see. And it has a triangular shape to it. Definitely different than the fighter jets that are out at the time. Totally different. So you wouldn't think that this was a fighter jet when you saw it. But still triangular in nature and made by man. Black Project. Moving down the list. B-2 stealth bomber. You knew this was next, right? People saw this. People saw this in the sky prior to it being released. People have photos of it as well. Definitely weird. Never saw anything like that at that time flying in the sky. It's totally strange. Doesn't look like anything that we've ever built as mankind or human beings, but it was something that we had, and it was a Black Project. It was in the back, and we just hadn't announced it yet. And turns out that, yeah, we made this, even though some thought it was a UFO at the time. Also triangular in shape. The Aurora never came out. This is rumored. There's some pictures out there that I've seen personally. I think you probably have seen them too, with this super high altitude plane, and you can see the outline of it, and it is like a perfect triangle shape. A lot of people think that's the Aurora. That has not been confirmed, but there hasn't been anything else that actually came out that matches whatever that was in the sky that people took pictures of. But if you were to see that, if you're just a random person not really into this, you probably look at that and say, very strange, maybe UFO, right? I don't know if any of you have seen an Aurora before, but I know there is a film, a video of one probably 80,000 feet in the air. I think it's an Aurora, but it's perfectly triangle-shaped craft flying across the sky, right? UFO, triangle-shaped as well. This is the RQ-170 drone. This was the drone that was taken down, I think, in Iran, in one of those Middle Eastern countries where they were able to kind of hack into it and get it to land. And then they took it and they actually reverse engineered this. And now they have their own version out as well. But once again, something really strange in the sky. Something very strange in the sky, triangle shaped. If you just saw it, it hadn't been announced, and you didn't know of those other craft we just went through, you would look at this and say, probably UFO. Like if you're just a regular person who's not into this at all, you saw this, you think UFO, but it's government made craft, black project, another black project. This is the successor to that. Once that Middle Eastern country got a hold of that, we already had this one on deck. So this one was already being test flown. But once again, the image, the design style, going with the triangle for whatever reason. Now, I have some theories maybe why, but once again, a triangle flying in the sky that most people might think was a UFO turns out that it's just a drone. B-21 Raider. This just came out recently. This had been filmed as well. I showed Jim Goodall a video. Well, actually, his friend took the photo of this being test flown, and it also was at high altitude. And then I think it was maybe in 2017. He called Jim Goodall, told him that he caught this thing on film. Jim went and saw it, and they pretty much confirmed with each other that they thought that it was going to be this new plane, and then it got announced. So once again, another black project. But it seems the theme here is it seems like the black projects that are being worked on are these triangular shaped craft, right? Okay, so we're getting somewhere with that. Next down the line, TR3B. Is it real? Not really sure. Not really sure if this is real. A lot of people have theories that these have been floating over neighborhoods. Some people say they have these triangle objects just hovering over their house, making no noise. Some people think that these are reverse engineered from alien craft. I don't know because I've never seen one. I don't have really an opinion on that. But if it is something that exists, then it just shows again that for whatever reason, our government is going down, as far as black projects go, down a triangular path. They have a fascination with this triangular shape. Now, is there a reason behind that? So looking at all these together, and let me bring these all up on the screen. Looking at these all together, let me move this stuff out the way. Just take a look at that for a minute. Just look at each one of these. So with that being said, I put this all together just to show that for whatever reason, the black projects that we've worked on in the past, and the most recent one to come out is the B-21, that they have all been triangular in shape. So I can admit that things that we might see that are triangular in shape, and then also with Richard Dolan's investigation into his USO book that he's currently doing, it does kind of show that that these triangles might be man-made. They might all be man-made. So the portion of craft that we're seeing in the skies that are triangle in nature are probably black projects. I would assume they are continuing to go down that path, even with the ones that haven't been released. If this aurora is a real thing, then it would be that another triangle craft that has come out, as a black project. So if that's the case, everything that isn't this. So when we get into the Tic Tacs, and I guess we'll get into that in a minute, because actually I want to go ahead and move to this. So safe to say that the government likes these triangle craft designs, not widely seen by the public or often captured on film. So that was the other part of it, because a lot of these other crafts we're seeing all the time, we're getting them on film crystal clear. They're buzzing commercial planes, they're buzzing military planes. They are swarming Navy ships. They're doing all these different things. And these former black projects that were worked on that came out, confirmed, released, they weren't doing that. So why would they be doing that now? Right? So I think just looking at that, you could probably, if you're using logic, you could say, okay, one of these things isn't the same, right? And so Tic Tacs, all these other ones, I have a list of them here. Tic Tacs, Foo Fighters, boomerang shaped craft, all these other things that we are seeing in the sky are things that are being reported don't fit the bill for historical government black projects that have come out. They just don't. Okay, so for the government black project argument, I think you could see that they're on a trend as far as, and these are different contractors that are making these, not all the same contractor. So for whatever reason, the design choice is being modeled after triangular craft. So maybe they saw a triangular craft, maybe they've captured a triangular UFO and they attempted to reverse engineer, but like the design style, and this is what they're deciding to go with. But there's no evidence, there hasn't been any evidence that has come out through black projects of anything outside of these triangular shaped craft. So moving into adversarial tech, because that's the other argument. It's like, okay, well, no, it's adversarial tech. Well, I think it's pretty simple here. And the problem is that with both countries that we're talking about here, they're both communist countries, right? So you're not going to really know a lot about what they're doing. But I could tell you that we saw the war in Ukraine is currently still going on with Russia and Ukraine. And they brought out the old tanks. They brought out subpar artillery. So you would assume, and we'd have to assume, because obviously communist country isn't going to tell you the truth on any of that stuff. Although George Knapp did go to Russia when the USSR folded and was able to get some of that UFO data, or at least view some of it when he went out to Russia, I think in 89 or something like that. So he was able to confirm that at least they do have a UFO program. So yeah, they're probably working on some stuff, but just based on the tech that they brought out in their most recent war, kind of shows that they don't have the secret stuff, the stuff that everyone's talking about that's flying around here. They don't have Tic Tacs and things of that nature, because the same thing with China. China has more of an ambition of taking over the world, and you would assume with either one of these two, they would have displayed something, some sort of something. We can't say what they're working on because we don't really know. But I think just based on that, and then not only that, but let's talk about the espionage world, right? So in the espionage world, both just on ground intelligence with like secret agents, spies, things of that nature, they're going to have, they may not know everything, but they're going to have a good pulse on their what their target might be working on, right? Okay. And then when we're talking about contractors, the private contractors, but spies go after that information as well. And we have intelligence on both sides, right? We have agents out there trying to find what they have. They have agents out here trying to find out what we have, what we're up to. They may not have their hands on the goods, but they're close enough to know, to hear whisperings of things that might be worked on, right? So I don't, there's not a moment that I will ever believe when a country says, oh, we're not sure if it's their tech, or the other country says, we're not sure if it's your tech. I'm not going to buy that, period, because we know within the espionage world, not only on the ground, but spy satellites. There's spy satellites up there that are watching everything, and pretty much any move that's being made. So with these government craft that are being seen by just the general public, supposed general or government craft, or supposed adversarial craft that are being seen by the general public, the spy satellites are seeing these things. So it just is it takes another step to show you that the things that we're seeing and filming consistently, these things don't belong to any government. They just don't. And just based off of using logic, right? Because I bet if you knew a spy, I bet you a spy would probably tell you, yeah, they're trying to work on something. I believe both countries have something. I believe they have recovered craft. I believe they're trying to work on something, but I don't believe that they have gotten to a point to where they are actually reverse engineering these craft and making them fly. Now, I'll go to a statement, right? Because we've talked to Jim Goodall before, and he said, and it's been said by other people as well, that Ben Rich, who was the president of Skunk Works, made a statement, the famous statement saying, we now have the technology to take ET home, right? So a lot of people want to hang on that and say, hey, no, these contractors have cracked the code, right? But you heard who was it, Lukatsky on the show, the show with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, Weaponized, where he said they just barely broke into the hull of one of the spaceship or the extraterrestrial craft. They just breached the hull. So they just breached the hull. Do you think they reverse engineered? Likely not. But Ben Rich said we now have the technology to take ET home. That's one statement that a lot of people like to use and say, yeah, we do have reverse engineered tech. The way I look at that is that could be looked at a couple different ways. Because some people think, okay, wow, we've developed craft and we can reach other star systems. That's what he's saying. We have reverse engineered successfully. We can now go to those star systems. This could also be looked at, though, as saying, no, we actually have the alien craft that can do this in our possession, but it doesn't mean that we've harnessed the technology. And that could be exactly what they mean. Like, hey, we have some really cool stuff that we recovered, and it can go to these star systems. But I don't think that statement, we now have the technology to take ET home, just basically lays it out that we have built something that can actually do this. I don't think it does that. Now, you may feel differently. You can let me know in the chat, but I just don't think that statement does that. So when we're trying to put this all together and trying to figure out where does this tech come from, who does this tech belong to, then we can see with the U.S. government, who is always designing something new. For whatever reason, they're doing triangle shaped craft. That's just what they're doing. They haven't showed us anything different besides now this new little manta ray thing that I don't even think is actually government tech. But that's something different. But it still kind of goes along with you know the saucer, or like mimicking something that they may have seen. I think that's kind of what they're trying to do. They're building things the way we know how to build things, but trying to mimic the things that they've captured or that they've recovered, right? I think that's what's going on, because I don't think they've been able to crack the code. Bob Lazar said as well that they were in there trying to figure these things out and they just couldn't do it. He doesn't feel that they've gotten to that point either at this point, right? So I think it's just a lot of evidence that points to, we know what government craft are, and everything else outside of that is going to be stuff that we can't do or we can't build, right? So moving down the list, getting to, some say UFOs are actual alien craft. And I think that's really kind of the point here, is that, yes, we are looking at alien craft. So, and I'll go down the list because there's so many different ones. Now, we looked at the ones that are tied to government, but ones that are not. Okay, so if the U.S. and Canada and Russia are developing top secret craft, is likely in an attempt to reverse engineer, which would confirm the alien craft have and still likely are visiting Earth. Those crafts would be, in my opinion, the Tic Tac shaped craft, been reported since the 1950s and seen all over the world. 1950s. You have some people that believe the Tic Tac is government craft. I don't know why. I don't know why they believe that. I'm trying to understand it. There's been no proof or anything that we can look at historically in the 50 years, 60, 70 years since the first Tic Tac was seen, or at least that we know of that was reported, What has come out in those 70 years? Triangle-shaped craft. Nothing that resembles a Tic Tac. If we had something that was kind of on that path, then I might, okay, but we don't. We don't have anything. Let's keep going. The Foo Fighters, seen during World War II. So the Foo Fighters, right? What do we have that mimics the capabilities of the Foo Fighters, which were seen in the 1940s? Buzzing pilots. I don't think we have anything like that. The boomerang-shaped craft that Kenneth Arnold reported prior to the Roswell sighting. Now, maybe that's where they get these stealth technology or these designs from. Maybe they, they mimic them after those, right? I don't know. But we know I'm one that believes that life imitates art, and I think that they've captured something that intrigued them, and they are trying to redesign what it is. They're trying to reverse engineer, but at this point, all they can do is like maybe build the shell of what these things look like, but they can only put our tech in there to power them, right? I kind of think is what I'm getting at there. So what else we have? The city-sized motherships, the mothership type crafts, which I really want to see, haven't seen, but some people report ships that are like a mile long, 2 or 3 miles, big as a city, which sounds unbelievable. Truthfully, I couldn't imagine looking up and seeing something that big, but there are people that have reported that. So those are likely not government craft. The cylindrical or cigar-shaped craft, that kind of goes into the Tic Tac, but more of the elongated cylindrical craft, right? Those ones have been seen since the 40s, 50s. We haven't built anything remotely like that. So I just don't see that being government craft. So likely these are non-human built craft. The white and silver spheres that often come close and follow commercial aircraft, if those were even adversarial, if they had any inkling that those white spheres and translucent spheres that we see following these jumbo jets and supposedly the MH370, if that is a thing, that would immediately be an act of war, because you're putting citizens at risk at that point, right? So if it's an adversary, of course, yeah, they probably would try to put citizens at risk. If it's the government of those citizens, I just don't see them testing any sort of tech on commercial flights. It just doesn't make sense. So those are also likely not human made. I said earlier, the UFOs that swarm our Navy ships, right? If they were adversarial in nature, that would be the beginning of a war at that point, right? If they were privately owned, the people who own those, or the company that own those, they would be the FBI or somebody be at their door pretty quick, right? So we can rule those things out. And that's just using common sense on that, right? And then it wouldn't make sense for the military to use them against themselves. It just doesn't, because historically with government black projects, that hasn't been the case. Or if they ever did, we never found out about it because they knew that they were testing them against their own people. And I just don't see a world where they don't tell the other people in the service or the military, the pilots and things, that, hey, you might see something, or, kind of give them a hint, or maybe debrief them after the event. Like, none of that happened, right? Go talk to Fravor and Diedrich. None of that happened. So those interactions don't appear to be in any way, shape, or form related to anything man-made. They just don't. What else? The flotilla, right? Which is a new word that I learned from Dave Altman. I guess that's what they call the sighting that I had with those 47 objects, those white objects flying across the sky. Whereas in Mexico, they've had hundreds of those, and they've had different times that those have shown up. For those to be so publicly seen and recorded for everybody to see, no way in the world those are black projects. And if they were adversarial and they were just flying through my neighborhood like that in a formation, that would be considered an act of war also. So it just shows that they are not man-made. Just another one. This is a long list. I'm almost at the end though. I believe those jetpack beings, the ones that Tom King talked about on the After Hours show, the one he's going to do a show, and I hope to have him back on so we could talk about those, because ever since I saw Jetpack Man, it didn't make sense how something like that could continue to happen, right? Where this guy is able to get on assuming it was a guy, they were thinking it was a guy, able to get right in the landing path of LAX, planes on approach to LAX, flying right past what appears to be something on the jetpack. They really couldn't tell the speed they're flying past them. But at 3,000 and 4,000 feet in the air, if you've ever seen jetpacks, people don't go that high in those, right? First of all, they don't go that high. Second of all, it more lines up with like those floating things, those beans or whatever they recorded in Mexico. I know you've seen them. I know you guys have seen. I can't show the video now, but they've had historically video, and you can go on YouTube and find these, where it appears to be these full body things kind of just floating around the air. Then we talked about the Peru situation where there's supposed to be the jetpacks, the aliens with the jetpacks there. I mean, I think the jetpack thing is a thing, and I don't think it's human. I just don't. There isn't any evidence that we've got so far that points to that specifically being human. So I just added that to the list because, yeah, it's not human. We have the craft that are observed over our nuclear sites, right? If those are adversarial, that would be obviously World War III, the start or the ending, because we probably do something drastic right there in the moment. And then it's not going to be us flying over our own nuclear facilities. I just don't see that happening. We have reports of soldiers who are guarding those facilities saying that they see beams of light that are being shined into the silos, or things of that nature, like they're scanning or observing. And then I watched a lady today who was being interviewed by Ross Coulthard, and she's in another country, Italy or some other country, but she also talked about that recently happening out there. It's an ongoing thing. They're still doing it. They're still scanning these nuclear bunkers for whatever reason. They're doing it still. Not adversarial. It's just not. You show me it, using logic. I don't think you need any more than logic to understand or figure out, if that's who that's going to be. It's not going to be anybody playing adversarial with your nuclear weapons. They're not going to do that because it instantly triggers a response. And then it's not going to be the people who own the weapons, because why would they do that? It just doesn't make sense. So it only leaves extraterrestrial. We know that they're here because we've seen craft land, like I mentioned before, at aerial school and other places where we have seen beings get out of these craft, right? So let's start connecting the dots. Right? Let's call what is government tech, right? We know they're working on some stuff. We know a lot of the stuff is probably government tech, but everything I've just listed on this list right here, yeah, this is there isn't anything that points to this being government tech. So, and then let's go into logical thinking, right? As we debrief on these few things here. So I think we kind of laid it out. Experiencers know most UFOs are actually alien craft, and that's number one. Experiencers know what is alien craft and what isn't. It's the ones who haven't had experiences that are kind of on the fence or unsure, or it's the skeptics, or it's the ones that are just trying to hide the fact that these things are here. Those are the only people that would be able to look at this and be like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. Oh, it could be this, could be that. Experiencers know what is alien craft and what is not, right? Just based off experience. But with that being said, kind of logical thinking, I kind of jotted this down. I said most people believe we aren't the only intelligent life in the universe. I think collectively as a planet, if everybody's being real, even people who don't get into UFOs can sit down and be like, yeah, probably somewhere out there is going to be life, right? And with all those possibilities out there, all those different galaxies, stars, or solar systems, all those different stars, all those different planets that surround those stars, it's the Drake equation. And even though the map shows, even though there's a small probability, you got to look at it like this, because some people will go, yeah, okay, there's stuff out there, but takes too long to get here, and there's just no way. Why would they come here? There's so many different places to go. How would they chance up on us? And how would there be all this activity? That's the next thing they like to look at or point at. And so with that being said, I say look at it like this. Okay, I could understand with that, the small percentage, the chances of them coming. So if they just found out, if they just said, okay, let's start exploring the universe, and only 100 years have passed, then yeah, I could say, okay, it's probably within that 100-year period. They may not have found us yet. They've only jumped out in the solar system for about 100 years. They probably haven't located us as far as out as we are. I could definitely look at that and say, maybe they haven't found us yet. But when you look at the scale, you extend that scale to 100 million years, then there's so much more opportunity for one of those spacefaring civilizations to find us where we're at. And the way I kind of put that in like layman's terms, and just kind of put it in a way that anybody could understand, I said, look at it like this, right? Look at the time it takes to reach another star system. That's what other people say. That's what most people say. Like, why would they waste the time and do all that and come here? And I say this, think about coast to coast travel. So west coast of the United States to the east coast of the United States. Think about the distance involved there, right? Now, think of the reality of having to travel from one coast to the other by walking. Unattainable. You first thing you would say, if you understood what the distance was, and it said, okay, you need to walk there. You're not going to do it. You're like, no way. That's unattainable. I'd never make it. It'd take a year for me to get there, and it just doesn't make sense for me to do that. All right. So now think of taking that same travel by horse. You're like, oh, okay, maybe it wouldn't probably only take a few months at that rate. Maybe a few months, I could probably do it. Maybe, right? Okay, now think of that by car. It's like, okay, a few days. Huh. Very, very, yeah, maybe I could do that. Maybe, okay, about a week. If I take my time, about a week. Okay. Yeah. Makes more sense. Now, think about that by bullet train. Think about that by, we'll go back to Jim Goodall, SR-71, because he said SR-71 can go from coast to coast. I think he said in like 90 minutes. So one coast to the other coast in 90 minutes. Now, contrast that. A trip on an SR-71 or maybe even a Concorde. I think SR-71 is faster, so I'll just use that. But just say a 90-minute trip on an SR-71 versus maybe a year walking by foot, right? We've gotten there. We've gotten to the point that something that used to take you probably a year to do, we can do in 90 minutes. In a very short time, too. Very short time. So with that being said, I feel like aliens are likely, if we're going to make a comparison, like as far as we're concerned, we're probably still at the walking or horse traveling stage of space travel. In horse stage is probably going a little further. We're probably still at the walking stage. These aliens are probably at the SR-71 stage. So when I'm trying to explain, like, the people who think they just can't get here or they wouldn't get here, just think about that. We still don't even know how to go faster than we can currently go. We still can't fathom that there is a way to go faster than the speed of light. We haven't been able to do it or achieve it or put it together to be able to, get into that next stage of travel or fast travel. So think about the unimaginable methods of travel that still await us to be discovered. And then at 100 million years advanced, aliens are likely at that SR-71 stage of space travel, or even way past that, truthfully. So then we have to get into, okay, why are they here? And the why are they here, that's what we'll end up saving for another show, because we have the Alien Intent show coming up on Spaced Out Radio After Hours, which will kind of bridge into this whole conversation. It's like, okay, now we know they're here. I think we laid out the fact that government craft are just that. Government craft, there hasn't been any time in history where the government has shown their hand on what it is they're working on, except for those small times that people have been able to catch pictures of these planes that we showed you earlier, right? I don't see them being able to build a Tic Tac. There's just no evidence of that being done. There isn't. There's no evidence. So you can say, put all the mystique on these contractors that you want and say, oh, but you never know what they've done. You never know what they've created. Well, I can tell you, who was it? Lukaski said they simply just breached the whole of a UFO. So that tells me they haven't reverse engineered anything. And the type of tech they're putting in these new black projects shows you that they haven't figured it out yet. They haven't cracked the code, and we probably don't have the ability to crack the code, to be truthful. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get into our next segment, which is it's an oldie but goodie. And it is, actually, I have some music for this and everything. So let me get this going real quick. We have our segment called Once Upon a Time in Disclosure, or Ufology. And the story that we have for this is the Travis Walton case. So what we do on this segment, we pick a story or a case from UFO history. And, this is for all the newcomers. A lot of people, we know about Travis Walton, but there's a lot of people that don't know, that are just getting into ufology, just kind of finding out things are real. And that's the reason why we do this. So let me get into this. It's Travis Walton abduction. On November 5th, 1975, Travis Walton was part of a 7-man logging crew working in the forest. As they were heading home in the evening, the crew encountered a strange glowing object hovering in the sky. Walton, curious and impulsive, left the truck to investigate. His crewmates reported seeing a beam of light strike Walton, lifting him off the ground. In fear, the crew fled, but upon returning to the scene, Walton was nowhere to be found. For 5 days, Walton was missing, sparking a massive manhunt. The local police and townspeople feared the worst. Some speculated murder, while others wondered if Walton had been the victim of an extraordinary event. During Walton's absence, his co-workers were subjected to lie detector tests, all of which they passed, further fueling the belief that something beyond the ordinary had occurred. Now, Walton's account of what happened here: Walton reappeared 5 days later, dazed and confused, claiming to have been abducted by extraterrestrial beings. His story describes waking up in a spacecraft surrounded by non-human entities. According to Walton, he was subjected to medical procedures and encountered strange beings before being returned to Earth. His accounts, while vivid and detailed, immediately attracted both fascination and skepticism. Walton's story became a cornerstone in the narrative of alien abductions. Unlike earlier accounts, which often involved brief sightings or encounters, Walton's detailed experience suggested prolonged interaction with extraterrestrial beings. His descriptions of the craft's interior and the beings themselves added an unsettling layer of realism to the phenomenon, shaping future abduction narratives. From the beginning, the Travis Walton abduction case was met with intense skepticism. Many questioned the credibility of Walton and his crew, suggesting that the incident was either a hoax or a hallucination. Some theorized that Walton had orchestrated the abduction story for financial gain or publicity, especially given the polygraph test that followed. Skeptics, included scientists and UFO debunkers, have pointed to inconsistencies in Walton's story over the years. However, lie detector tests administered to Walton and his crew have often been cited in defense of their credibility. The fact that all members of the crew passed their initial tests raised questions about the likelihood of a collective hoax. While polygraph results are not universally accepted as definitive evidence, they have added a layer of complexity to the case, with some viewing the results as proof of honesty, while others remain unconvinced. Another point of contention is the influence of media and popular culture on the abduction narrative. Walton's account closely resembles tropes that were beginning to circulate in the UFO and science fiction circles at the time, leading some to argue that his story was influenced by existing cultural imagery. Skeptics argue that the increasing prevalence of UFO-themed entertainment may have contributed to the shaping of Walton's account, casting doubt on its authenticity. Regardless of one's stance on the veracity of Walton's story, there is no denying its impact on ufology. The incident inspired the 1993 movie Fire in the Sky, which dramatized the events of Walton's abduction and popularized the case for a wider audience. The film took creative liberties with the story, particularly in its portrayal of the abduction sequence, but it reinforced Walton's place in popular culture as a central figure in the alien abduction phenomenon. Moreover, the Travis Walton case has contributed to the ongoing debate about the nature of alien abductions and UFO sightings. For believers, Walton's account is one of the strongest examples of extraterrestrial content. His detailed narrative, coupled with the eyewitness testimony of his crew, suggests a real encounter with non-human entities. Supporters argue that the physical and emotional toll on Walton, along with the enduring attention and scrutiny the case has attracted, lend credibility to his claim. But for skeptics, the Walton abduction remains an example of the power of belief, group psychology, and the human capacity for storytelling. They argue that the case exemplifies how extraordinary claims can captivate the imagination, even in the absence of hard evidence. From this perspective, the Travis Walton incident is less about aliens and more about the mysteries of the human perception and memory. So, a lot of people feel different ways about the Travis Walton story. However, this is the story. This is what happened to him. This is what he says has happened. Now, I'm not going to give my personal opinion on it, but I will just say there's been some things that have recently occurred that, kind of make you ask questions. That's all I'll say about that. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. But you can go out and definitely look further into the Travis Walton story, because that's what these segments are for. Just to give you the gist of what happened within UFO history, so that you could then go down the rabbit hole and research or do more investigating on the case yourself. And that actually has been once upon a time in ufology. So we're going to go ahead and get out of that segment, and we're going to get ready to jump in to our next segment, which is, it's a fun one. This one we do every show as well. This one is science fiction to science fact movie edition, where we pick a movie every week. This week, the movie for you to go and see is They Live. Now, I'm sure you've seen this. They Live, 1988. This is the science fiction to science fact movie of the week. And I'm going to give you a brief synopsis on this here. So, if you haven't seen it, or if you have, They Live, 1988, directed by John Carpenter, is a sci-fi action thriller that follows a drifter who stumbles upon a pair of sunglasses that reveal a hidden reality. Through the lenses, he discovers that the ruling class consists of disguised aliens controlling humanity through subliminal messages, manipulating people into mindless consumption and obedience. The protagonist embarks on a mission to expose the truth, navigating a world of deception and power while facing dangerous opposition from those in control. This film explores themes of consumerism, conformity, and societal manipulation. That sounds like what the doctor ordered, and that is the science fiction, the science fact movie of the week. And the reason why we do these, it's been a while, so I'll explain why. The whole idea is that, okay, you may have watched this back in 1988, or you may have watched this, let's just say prior to 2017, right? So for a lot of people, when this movie came out, this movie was viewed as science fiction. But now that you've been open to the reality of what's here, like we have things that are here, we have it pretty much confirmed that what we're dealing with are things that are coming to this planet. Now, if you go back and watch this through that new lens, then you kind of see this movie different. In every movie that we do one once a week. So this week it's They Live. Next week we'll have a totally different movie. But what I'm going to want to do is, now that we have this membership thing set up, and I was talking about movie night, Discord and all that, so maybe we'll like put up a poll and we'll choose one of these movies to be the movie that we watch that week, or maybe twice a month or something. We'll still working out the details on that, but that's the whole idea behind science fiction, the science fact movie of the week. I have other great ones, and I'll just say, let's talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's just another one. And if you go back and watch that movie, and you look at it through the new lens that we're looking through now, it's bananas. Everything that they got right on there, everything that's still current, up to date on a 50-year-old movie. This movie is no different, almost 40 years old, and the whole concept of looking through glasses to see what's really going on in society is something that really hits with me, because that's the wake up that everybody needs, right? You are putting on a proverbial pair of sunglasses to see the mess that we're in as far as society. That movie hit on so many key points and really resonated with me when I rewatched it, now that we're in this current time, that is bananas. So I recommend that you guys go watch that this weekend or this week, whenever you get the time, and then come back and tell me how you felt about it. Tell me if you saw it different, or if it made you feel different, right? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the science fiction to science fact movie of the week. And with that being said, we're going to get ready. We're going to get ready to do something like this. We're going to get ready to bring it on home here, like we do at the Social Dig. Do appreciate everybody coming on out tonight. We had a fantastic time. This is why we do it. We do it for this right here. Is it right here? Yeah, right here. It's the positive progression of humanity. See, everybody down here, that's us. That's humanity, right? It's a lot of us. Different races, different places, different countries. But the whole thing is that just like in that photo, we all have to come together in order to make this thing move. It doesn't take one person. It takes everybody involved. That's why I'm so grateful that I have you guys here to celebrate going over 500 subs. That means we have 500 people. Let's turn that into 5,000 people and 50,000 people, all talking the same message, all with the goal of moving the needle for humanity, right? That's insane. That's what the government doesn't want. That's what the powers that be don't want. The moment that they see a movement like that happening, it's going to be trouble. But I'll take the fall. I'll be the fall guy. Don't worry about it. Sometimes you have a purpose in life, and moving the needle for humanity is what is my calling, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to thank everybody for coming on out, enjoying the show with me. Remember, you can always call the Social Dig at 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG. Call anytime. 24-hour line. You can leave a voicemail, talk about your experience. Sometimes it's cool to just call and say hi. You can send text messages, send pictures. You have photos of UFOs. Go ahead and send those over. But make sure you lock this number in your phone, because this is the number we use for the call-in show as well, which we will be doing on Saturday. So I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys up on stage talking with me talking about things, right? Also, don't forget, on this channel, we have Friday, My Experience with the Phenomena, and we're going to have Jim White coming. Now, actually, this week, we're going to have Drew Banky coming on talking about spirit horses. So make sure you're here for that. Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Saturday night, we'll be at the After Hours on Spaced Out Radio. Right after the After Hours, we'll be right back here with the live call-in show, right? And we're going to do it all over again next week. Social Dig on Wednesday. My Experience with the Phenomenon on Friday. After Hours on Saturday. Call-in show Saturday night. So we're going to keep this thing rolling, man. Thank everybody for coming on in. Thanks for helping this channel achieve a goal. And I promise I won't let you guys down. We're going to make this thing happen. We're going to raise the bar. We're going to keep this thing moving. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Super Chat. I'm not used to doing that, but I want to thank Miss Catherine Jones for going ahead and dropping that on us tonight. It's been pleasurable. I really do appreciate you guys coming on in. Outside of that, thanks for coming on in for the first episode back at the Social Dig. You guys have a great rest of your night. Take care.